I'm not sure how long it's going to be this, let's call it easy, yeah, because like again, to launch a prop trading firm, it's 1 2 3 you go, because this is not regular brokerage. You do not really, accept deposits. So like, things are very straightforward. And I was also like wondering when this is going to be regulated, because this is a reason why everyone is mostly involved in prop trading rather than the classical brokerage companies.
Here we are, another podcast session on the financial frontiers. I have an awesome guest today with me, Lola Negmatova, if I've got the pronunciation correct there. It's your global head of partnerships at Tools for Brokers. Lola, give us a bit of an introduction here, where you're from, your history, and let's dig in.
Hi everyone, hi Dinas, thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. We know each other for such a long time, so very glad to be here with you tonight. You're right, yes, Lola Negmatova. I'm Global Head of Partnership with Tools for Brokers. I've been with them for it's my 8th year, I think, going on. Like, I lost the count after the 5th. So originally I'm coming from Tajikistan. Usually I need to explain people where that is, because it's like, it's such a small country. You need to zoom in the map a few times in order to find it. Recently, thank God, the trend changes. The people are like, oh, Tajikistan, where is it? I would love to travel there. I'm like, wow, it's super cool. So yeah, I was born there. I lived my life. I basically grew up in Russia. And when I turned 19, I moved to the States. That's basically was one of the best decisions of my life, because my life in States gave me a good foundation for my future, let's say, even with Tools for Brokers. The main thing why they decided to hire me is because I work with different, people from different nationalities, from different countries, and my English was good. That was the two things that they paid attention to. So I studied finances, studied business administration. There was offline and online courses, like a diploma. And 8 years ago, my friend, Bayana, I think you know her, throughout the years, I was monitoring her lifestyle, I'm like, what do you do exactly? And she explained to me, and I was like, okay. It's like the same thing as now I went and explained to my parents what I do for living. They're like, okay. I'm like, yeah, okay, this doesn't matter. Just like, forget about it. So when she explained to me what she does, I'm like, okay, finances, okay, IT, okay. It's completely far away from me. And she goes like, why don't you try with us? I said, no, like, I have no experience, like, at all, like, definitely. She's like, no, you'll be fine. Don't worry, just give it a try. I was like, you sure? She's like, yeah. So I had my first interview, I think it was December 2015. Which I thought I completely failed, because we were supposed to sell iPhones to people who like to use Android, which I completely failed for sure. I thought I completely failed, but
that was the job you had before, selling.
No. It was just like a testing during the interview.
Oh.
If I will be able to, sell iPhone to a person who actually has Android, that's a good thing. I don't think I was able to sell it at that time, but anyways. And so I passed several stages of the interview, and I started working with them since 2016, January 11th. Like, I remember that day perfectly. So I moved to St. Petersburg. At that time, it was 25 people overall, just one office. Unlike now we have offices in London, in Singapore, headquarters here in Cyprus. But we started from a very small company in St. Petersburg, 25 people, including everyone, developers, support, sales, whatnot. And, we were working with all of the markets, let's say, unlike now, like we have split areas nowadays. By the time we were working with all of the markets. So, we were covering the time zones of the Asian market, the Mexico, whatnot. So it was quite challenging in the beginning, because you weren't actually working 9 to 6 or 9 to 5. You were starting your work from, let's say, 5 a.m. because people from different, areas were messaging you, and you will end up like talking to people still at 11 or 12, So it was interesting, but quite challenging. But that wasn't the main challenge, of course. Again, because I didn't have any experience in IT. When I just started my training, I was in complete shock because everything was new. Even the jokes they were doing, I didn't understand even the jokes between two people from the IT industry. And I was coming to Bayan. I'm like, can you explain what he's telling me? Like, can you explain the joke? He's laughing so hard. I want to understand what he says as well. He's like, don't worry, we'll get it. I'm like, okay. So everything was new. Everything was challenging. Everything was, interesting. But at the same time, you're like, okay, you feel like the dumbest person on earth because things they're telling you, they like seem so so easy, and they tell it in such a confidence, and you're like, okay, yes. I remember I would come home, I would Google things, separate words they were telling me. I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. That was the first year with Tools for Brokers. But of course, at that time, specifically at that time, we decided to launch the white label, and that's when the things changed for me, because now I understood the exact place and exact market share Tools for Brokers had. And it was that time I understood that, okay, Tools for Brokers, it's not the first point of contact for the brokerage companies. Actually, might be kind of the last one, because there should be a lot of pre-work done before people come to contact with us. And that's how the base for my future position, which is head of partnership, started, because people will come to us asking, can you recommend us CRM providers? Can you recommend us the, company formation firms? I'm like, no, cool. Okay, I'm going to search it, but no, cool. So that's, how I started to analyzing the market. Besides, providing the plugins that we were selling at that time, I'm like, okay, there should be something else besides that. And there's actually a lot of things that we need to know that we can help to our clients besides, selling the products to them. So that's when I started to analyze the market. Okay, what else is there? Company formation. What do you guys exactly do? CRM providers. Why exactly brokers need you? The PSPs, the banking, whatnot. So, and I was lucky enough. The companies sent me to Expo in London, the first one that I had. And that was...
When was that?
It was in 2017. Yeah, 2017. So it was my first expo ever. And that's it. I think I was the most curious person on that expo. I was maybe the most annoying person as well, because every single person that I met there, I had the question, what do you do? What do you do? How exactly you helping the clients? How exactly you helping the brokers? How exactly you can help our brokers? How exactly, we can collaborate with you? I had this, wide eyes open, like talking to every single person I met there. I'm like, okay, tell me more, please tell me more. And that's how I started building my network. And as you know, as a person who's been on market for such a long time, network is the most important thing, nowadays. So I built my network, and that's what I'm doing every single day now as well. But yeah, that's, let's say, how I started understanding that, okay, besides our plugins, besides our products, there's a lot of things that we can help to brokers nowadays. And that's how I'm continuing doing it every single day.
That's cool. So, I think your experience is really interesting for, an end trader, because you started out with somebody who doesn't know the details about how the industry works. Exactly. And through your, so you mentioned when you started, you told Bayana, I don't have experience. Well, nobody had experience when they started, right? So you start out, and that's exactly what happens. You get your experience. Yeah. You have the curiosity is a big thing. As long as you're curious and you keep digging in and you keep asking, why was that person laughing? And figure it out. Yeah. So you just summarized, Lola, about 15 years in 5 minutes. You went through that. So okay, let's go a little bit back. I didn't know you're from Tajikistan.
Yeah, it's
and where now. Okay, let me try and take a shot at this, right? Because I'm not prepared, but I think it's close to Afghanistan, a little bit further between Russia and Afghanistan. Am I right?
Okay, so it's in Central Asia, yes. Yeah. We are close to Afghanistan. Actually, my parents, they lived there at some point of time. I think even I lived there, but I was like very, very young, so I cannot really remember anything. But yeah, we lived there as well. It's close to Afghanistan. We're on the border with China. Iran, our closest brother, let's say, in that sense. So yeah, we used to be part of USSR. Actually, in my passport, it still says that I was born in USSR, even though when I was born, it got separated. We were already in Republic of Tajikistan. But in my passport still says it's USSR. Once USSR separated, we had these, stunned countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and etc. Tajikistan was a part of Uzbekistan at some point of time as well, and then it got separated completely. So yeah, not a lot of people know. Some people confuse it sometimes with India, because I remember one time when I was in a group of people and I said I'm from Tajikistan, and the person tells, "Oh yeah, you look Indian," and it got me questioned for the rest of the evening. I'm like, "Why would she said that?" And then the next morning I was like, "Right, she meant Taj Mahal." And I was like, I wish I could have got it earlier so I could explain her this is not really what she thought it is.
Okay.
But yeah, there's throughout my, let's say, existence on the market, in the forex market, and overall, let's say when I used to live in States, people would think that I'm like Spanish. When I moved here to Cyprus, people thought that I'm Cypriot. They would just straight ahead come and talk to me in Cypriot. So I needed to kind of, I don't want to sound rude and say I educate people with Tajikistanis, but let's say open up the mind a bit more and to be like, okay, there is beautiful places, Tajikistan. Unfortunately, it's not marketed as a touristic place, even though we have amazing places like amazing mountains. People are super hospitable, amazing food. I would always suggest people to go travel there. Even though I wasn't there myself for like 10 years. I really want to go next year. But yeah, it's a very beautiful city. It's a very beautiful country.
What's the language they speak there?
So we speak Tajik. It's a dialect of Farsi. So it's the same thing as I usually explain. It's Cypriot and Greek. So it's kind of the same thing. We share the same, let's say, history, some of the same words. But let's say if a person who speaks Farsi talks to me, I wouldn't be able to understand him, not fully at least. But if I talk back to him, he will be able to understand me. So yeah, but this is Tajik. I only speak Tajik with my grandmother, unfortunately as well. So that's why I tend to kind of forget it. Let's say like I speak Russian better than Tajik, unfortunately.
So yeah, and Negmatova is a Russian surname, right?
Yeah. Again, when we were separated from USSR, we still had a lot of people from Russia stayed in Tajikistan. In the place where I was born, Kayrakum, and the place that I grew up, Chkalovsk, it even sounds like Russian. Yeah. My teachers from school were Russian speakers. My friends were Russian speakers. I went in kindergarten, there was like 90% of people who were talking Russian. So we've been influenced a lot by the Russians as well. So which is a good thing. That's why I'm proud of my education. I'm proud of, the heritage and etc. So yeah, but majority of people from Tajikistan, they speak Russian.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a nice tidbit here. I think, a little bit outside of the context, but it's all good. Then you were in Russia until your late teens, and then you went to the US.
Yes, I went to US, originally aiming to just spend there 3 months, this work and travel program. But I ended up staying there because I liked it. I thought that I'm going to learn a lot. It's going to be a good kickstart for my future, let's say. I didn't know that much of a good English. I was still learning, but the English that teach you in the school and the English that you need to use in New York is completely different. I remember one of my first jobs, the people come to me, the person would, come to, "Oh my God, I'm starving." I'm like, "What is it?" I'm like, "Starving?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay." It's like when you're super hungry. I'm like, okay. So that's like a lot of dialect words that I learned throughout, my work in States, which was also awesome. And nowadays, when I speak to people, they're like, "Okay, your accent is kind of mixed. Where are you from?" I'm like, "Okay, that's kind of interesting." I think I like a lot of my even accent, the way I pronounce words, etc. It's influenced by the people that I spoke to in New York, which is also a good thing. And the experience there was completely different from what I do now. I worked in a lot of different fields. I worked in a construction company. I worked in the beauty industry. I worked in a place that was selling the filters for water even. What else did I do?
And this was while you were studying?
Yes. So it was like a part-time job, but I was still keen to learn a lot from different industries, from different like, let's say people, because I thought, okay, that's interesting. When someone reached out to me like, okay, we need a person who would be ordering doors for this company that we work for. Do you want to give it a try? I'm like, okay, let's do it. So throughout my work there, I learned so much about doors, because we were ordering like 150 doors per day to the different projects that we're building in New York. And I had no idea that the one door from the other, it like differs that much, those hinges, those, paintings. And you have to have like extreme attention to details while ordering all of that. So I'm like, okay, cool. That experience worked well. Then I worked in a hair salon, which was actually based in Astoria, which is the Greek area in Queens in New York. I loved it. I loved it. I was going to work every day like I'm having a holiday, because even though I lived in Brooklyn and the Queens is like hour and a half commute one way by train.
Jeez.
One way. So I didn't mind.
And you were doing that every day?
Every day, back and forth, 3 hours just to commute. It's a normal thing for New York. It's absolutely normal thing. So I didn't even pay attention. But when I moved to Cyprus and everything is literally 5 minutes away from me, I'm like, that's how it should be. That's how it used to be in New York, Like, everything is super convenient nowadays. But yes, I was traveling to Astoria every single day. There was a lot of Greek people. Everything that I see now in Cyprus, it was exactly the same way there in Astoria. And I flashed back hugely, when I moved to Cyprus. I'm like, oh my God, because I loved Astoria a lot. So I spent there working in a hair salon, which also gave me understanding of how people basically operate, because you were talking to like at least 50 people per day, having the small talks, chit chats, and etc., which I enjoyed a lot. And in the place where we're selling the water filters, it's also helped me a lot with the customer support. So yeah, it was a good thing. With all that knowledge in base, I came to Tools for Brokers and somehow I succeeded.
Yeah, it's a success that you were there since 2016. It's almost 10 years. And I guess that's just generally how life works, right? Any experience that you get, whatever you learn, whatever it is, even if it may seem on the outset not at all relevant or related to, the profession that you might take in your career 3 years later for the rest of your life, everything helps, right? Whatever you learn, I believe helps. Definitely. And for sure, and it makes a lot of sense, working with many different people at the hair salon, whatever it is, that definitely, I agree with you, gave you that experience to handle and work, as global head of partnerships. That's what you need to do all day. So you're speaking with whatever it is, brokerage firms, fintech providers, companies like DGM, like mine, not about hair or beauty,
unfortunately,
but about, the industry, the specifics. Yeah. And, another thing and this is also true for me, is when you're involved with different verticals, different industries, that gives you a perspective that's, I think, quite useful, in whatever you do. So, you worked with the water filters, whatever. I firmly believe, and I experience it myself. It helps definitely. Sure. So that's interesting. So, traveled all around the world from east to the middle to the west and then back to the middle. Yes. Let's call it in Cyprus. You've been here for 8 years. So how do you like Cyprus?
I love it. Originally before opening the office here, we were sent, me and my colleagues were sent here for the IFX Expo, which was also one of the first ones for me, like in Cyprus. When, we were approached and said, okay, guys, you're going to Cyprus for the Expo. I'm like, cool, great, amazing. And then I go to my phone, like, where is Cyprus? Where is Cyprus exactly? Like, okay, I went to Google. I'm like, okay, I never heard of Cyprus ever before in my life, ever at all. So I'm like, okay, cool, let's see what's up. And we came here in May, and I don't remember how many years ago that was already. It was like quite a long time ago. And in May was May. Like, it was super hot, not like now, June and you're still like wearing coats in the evening. It's like super cold. May was super hot. It looked like a paradise. We lived in St. Petersburg at that time. rainy, windy, like gloomy. And then you move and you come here and it's just like a sun, everyone is happy, everyone is relaxed. I'm like, oh wow, that place looks like heaven. So we came here then afterwards with my family for the vacation. And then when the idea came to open the office here, I was one of the first one in line, like, okay, send me to Cyprus, please. I loved Cyprus, send me to Cyprus. And in 2017, 18, December, January, I was relocated to Cyprus. And it was like a huge cultural shock, of course, for me in a good way. Because, of course, again, you're coming from the big cities. I lived in New York, in St. Petersburg, also, like more or less it's a big city as well. So, and here everything is just simple. Everything just flows. You don't really have to rush anywhere. Again, everything is 5 minutes close by. If you need to go somewhere and it takes 15 minutes, you're like, do I really need to be there? I don't think so. It's okay. Okay, I'm not gonna go there. So everything is just like makes sense. One of the first impressions I remember when I came to Cyprus is I was walking to office and I saw a huge group of people right in the middle of the road, gathered, like talking, whatever. I was like, okay, I hope it's not like an accident happened or anything. And as I walk closely, and I see that there's actually a huge pig being cooked on the grill in the middle of the street, like daytime, Tuesday, let's say. I was like, okay, I like this place already, it's cool. Now you just take it like a normal thing, but then for a person who just moved and was kind of, let's say, stiff, I would say, and then you see like completely relaxed people do whatever they want on Tuesday, like in the middle of the day, roasting a pig, huge pig on the grill. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I love this place. Or I learned how to drive in Cyprus as well. In the beginning. Yeah, I didn't drive before, so it was my head start with driving as well. If in the beginning I was like one of those drivers who would be like very much upset at people who would park illegally. I'm like, why would you do that? Go park in a normal place. Like, this is very, very bad, And once I started driving myself, I would see the car that is parked right outside of the store, and I would be very sad and very unhappy about that. But when I started driving myself, I'll be like, I'm just quickly going to jump into a store. So that's why I'm going to leave my car here, but I will be back really, really fast. So you adjust towards the living here, towards the mentality here. And I don't mind it. Like, I love it, seriously. And when people asking me, like, what are your plans for Cyprus? We're like, you're going to stay here, to move? I'm like, no, I'm staying. I'm retiring here. I have a daughter. She can go wherever she wants to go when she grows up. But I'm here. This is my base. This is my home. Whenever I travel outside, I come back home. I come back to Cyprus like I'm coming back home, which is an amazing feeling. And I heard from a lot of my friends, they feel the same way. So Cyprus has this special vibe, I would say. So I love it here.
Awesome. Yeah, it is very laid back, and I'll also give a small story over here about, because you mentioned about learning your driving here and then parking, and then you said you'd park quickly. So I'm from South Africa. Very dangerous, right? Very dangerous in South Africa, hijackings and whatever it is. So when I moved to Cyprus, I would be coming here on holiday, right? And it's not dangerous. I mean, how it was even 22 years ago was even... So, where you mentioned about the parking in South Africa, if you park to go into the supermarket, you lock your doors, you make sure 100% everything's closed, check the windows, whatever. If you're able to put guard dog inside, whatever. So in Cyprus, I took full advantage of that. So what I do intentionally is go with my car, leave it on, open the door, leave the door open, and go inside and purposefully delay. So I could take full advantage of the freedom and the no crime, which is pretty awesome. So, yeah, okay. And then in Cyprus, that's great that, on a personal level, you enjoy it here. It is very laid back. But at the same time, we've also got this very fast-paced industry that we're involved in, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And let's talk about your experience, in this industry. How that is involved, your findings over there. I think, as I mentioned before, if you had to take a trader who knows how to trade, but doesn't know how the stuff works at the back, right? Which is what you know.
Yeah.
Their journey is, in learning, that is one that you've experienced the past 8-9 years. So I think there's some value there. Let's talk about your history in Tools for Brokers. You started out, was the position always as partnerships, or what was the initial position, head of partnership, or what was the initial position, and how did that evolve?
So yeah, of course, I didn't start with the head of partnership. I started with the simple sales manager, which I don't want to say hated it, but not really liked it, because from the first days in Tools for Brokers, I understood that we do not really sell things. We consult brokers. We consult them, and not majority of time, but sometimes those prospects wouldn't even be our clients, because at this specific point of time, they don't need our services, and that's fine, which is still didn't stop me to consult them fully. So let's say we would hear the prospect like, okay, having a question. Could you please tell us more? How do we become a prop trading firm? How do we become a liquidity provider? How do we open the brokerage company from the scratch? Okay, these questions, they do not really involve Tools for Brokers at all, because in order to open the company, you don't need Tools for Brokers. You need the company formation teams. If you need to open the prop trading firms, there's a lot of pre-steps you need to do before you involve Tools for Brokers. So from the first days in the company, I said, I'm not a sales, I'm not selling you things, but I will consult you to get to your end goal. And your end goal will require, for the specific reasons, Tools for Brokers. But again, it's up to you, okay? If at specific point in time you don't really need that, that's fine. And majority of times, those clients would come back to us when they were ready, and they appreciated the fact that we weren't pushy. We're not aggressive salespeople. We're not aggressively push our products. You have to use it. No, you don't have to use it at this time if you don't need it. So I was a sales manager, but because I think I didn't have an attitude of a salesperson, I had an attitude of a consultant. I slowly raised to position that I have at the time being. Of course, everything was new in the beginning. Absolutely, as you mentioned, for a trader, of course, because you see things from one perspective, and once you dig further, there's like a lot of things open up in totally different world for you. That's what happened with me as well, and that's what keeps happening with me every single day, because when I go to expos and I meet new people and ask, what do you guys do? And then they explain me their products. I'm like, how did you even come up with such idea? Seriously, that's mind-blowing. It keeps happening to me. So I'm assuming the same thing happens to a trader as well, when they open up new things for themselves, like, how did he even come up with this idea? So from salesperson, we have several stages, of course, for this. First you as like a key account manager, and then you grow into like sales executive and etc. I went through all of these stages, but I never considered myself as a sales. I am still involved in some part of the sales consulting. I'm still involved in that part of consulting, because doing partnerships, it's great thing, it's amazing, but I love sharing my knowledge, sharing my experience. Like nowadays, it's very, very actual, because with all the changes throughout the history, even the changes throughout the 7 years that I've been on the market, they were drastic. Like taking the market 7 years ago and taking the market now, it's completely different two worlds. Before, things were straightforward. You could open the brokerage company within 3 weeks. St. Vincent, 3 weeks, done. You're ready to roll. Nowadays, market became very regulated, which is a good thing, of course. You cannot really go and open, the brokerage company without being fully regulated, without going through 100,000 KYCs, and at some point you might even get rejected. Even though it's everything filed perfectly, it can still be rejected. So back in the days, that wasn't the case. We would help to open at least few brokerage companies within a month. Now it only takes 4 months to get the normal license, to get normal regulation. So of course the market changed, it became more regulated, which is again a good thing. It takes quite a long time now, of course, but I think it's much better nowadays. Of course, it requires you to adjust to current market trends, to current market requirements. We also adjusted our offering as well, because if in the beginning tools for brokers were only like majorly serving brokers, nowadays we're helping prop trading firms, we're helping the hedge funds, the prime of primes. We're also helping the companies who want to become liquidity providers, because our solutions are tailored towards majority of the business activities nowadays. So of course we involved a lot throughout these years, and it's very exciting to see that again, when we started from this small company of 25 people, now we have around 200 worldwide, throughout the 7 years.
Wow.
It's impressive, yeah. Nowadays, let's say, when before you knew every single person who was working in the company, nowadays I don't know anyone. Like majority of people that we hired, of course, they knew. I know the base people, okay, but throughout the years, who was hired additionally, like, who are you? Like, hi, they adding to the chat, like, hi, I'm this and that. I need your help with this. I'm like, who is this? So it's a good thing, of course, because we keep hiring and hiring, we keep growing. So this is very exciting.
Yes. I've obviously, we work quite closely together. There are many common customers, and I've seen that growth. I didn't know that it was 200 people already. Wow, that's impressive. And as you mentioned, it's a 24, well, today it's 24/7, right? With crypto.
Yes.
But before crypto, it was a 24 5.5 industry, and you can very quickly increase the headcount because you need to cover jurisdiction.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So you spoke about prop firms. Now, as global head of partnerships, is that do you maintain partnerships like let's say, for example, like you have with DGM, or is it partnerships, or are the brokers also considered partners, which are clients?
Yeah. Yes and no. In a sense, of course, it's essential for me to establish the new partnerships with the company that we can both benefit. Let's say, not even both, all of us. Brokerage company can benefit from them. We can benefit from them because they will help our brokers to run things smoother, faster, and they can benefit as well from that introduction. So because we have access to a lot of brokers, let's say some of the brokers that they don't have access to. So it's like a mutual beneficial process that I'm establishing every day. Brokers, I don't really consider them as in the line of my partnership duties. Okay. This is something that comes with the consulting, my sales-consulting thing. But partnership is companies like yours, company like CRM providers, the company formation teams, even the providers who provide the reporting for the ESMA, MiFID, SISEC, and etc. Because we have clients asking, who can you recommend? They know we've been on the market as tools for brokers for 10 years, and they know that if we recommend the company, it means that we believe in them. It means that they will provide same or even better service as we provide. So, of course, throughout 10 years building of relationship, we had some errors. You would partner up with the company. In the end, they would not provide the service that you expect. They will not provide the answers at the specific time that you expect them to provide. So, of course, we would not partner up with such companies. With the companies that we feel confident, we feel that they're not going to jeopardize our name, of course, we're willing to work with them. We're willing to develop with them. That's my main duty, is basically to find those golden companies out of the majority of the companies that are existing on the market.
And there are many, right? There are many that come up and go. They appear like mushrooms and then they go. Yeah,
that's true.
The ones that stay behind are the ones that are, they're in it for the long haul and carefully, consider every move that they take to expand and grow and provide a service of value, which is, what we're talking about over here. This is exactly the thing that we do. So. Let's talk about the prop firms, right? You mentioned prop firms, and so Tools for Brokers obviously has many different products, right? The Bridge, me speaking from outside, I would say that I think the Bridge is the flagship or I mean,
It is.
it's the flagship product, but there's so many plugins. I mean, I'm very well aware. Now, but the bridge obviously is a product that I know of is initially built for brokers. And obviously, there are some differences with the way a prop firm works. Let's talk about then the prop firms. Give us a bit of, insight here, whatever you feel is relevant, for, I guess, generally, what is a prop firm? What can traders find out of a prop firm versus a brokerage, right? What are the main differences there? And, whatever insight you can give with how the engine works.
Sure, of course, the prop trading firm is subject. It's been popular in the market for the past 4 years, 3 years, since it first emerged. And since then, we would have 5, 6 requests per month. Help us to become the prop trading firm. Do you have solutions? We would like to become the funding firm, etc. So, of course, it's been very, very popular in the market, and I think it will continue being one of the most popular subjects on the market for the time being. We work with one of the biggest companies, prop trading firms, with the middle companies, with companies that just are being launched at the time being. And we understood that the products that we had at that time when the prop trading firms started to be launching, we understood that we cannot really service them because they need completely different things from what the regular brokerage company needs. We had a base product such as a stop out plugin, for example, that would stop out the account whenever the specific level of equity is reached. This is needed for the prop trading firms. But what we understood is the classical understanding of the way the brokerage company makes money, prop trading firm doesn't make money from that. So there's no actual volume involved. So we understood that we should not charge them per volume base. We should adjust and tailor-made our offer towards prop trading firm completely. And when it comes to the bridge itself, of course, we understood that we have around 60 features in our bridge, several types of aggregation. We have a very flexible, tabs when you can do different settings according to different groups, symbols, etc. This is all wasn't needed to prop trading firm. What they need is the fastest execution possible, and for the bridge to handle as much load as possible, because we're talking about many orders executed in a very short period of time. So we understood that prop trading firms, they need completely different. That's why we provide them still that. Our bridge is one of the fastest bridge on the market because of the private setup. So let's say the hosting, the bridge itself are located on that specific firm's hosting server. So no one else has access to that hosting besides the firm itself. So this provides the fastest execution because we can locate the hosting server closer to the MT5 or MT4 and closer to the liquidity provider itself. That's why the execution is basically immediate. So, and that's why, and also we understood that we cannot really charge them per volume base, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, because it should be something different. And we tailor-made it, and we use this logic to every prop trading firm that we work with, and it's been going well. Touch wood, because again, not all the companies understand the specifics. Not all the companies understand how exactly you need to charge them. And of course, it's a very sensitive subject when it comes to prop trading firms because they execute a lot of volume. There is this huge fake volume that exists, but in reality, it's not. It's not how they make money, obviously. So when we understood that, we tailor-made our offer, and now we have this specific offer for the prop trading firms that we're using nowadays.
Yep. So I think before I get into my next question, which is again about prop firms, let's build a bit of context here, maybe for the viewers who don't know what the difference is. So we have the standard broker that offers access to the markets, and a trader who's interested to access these markets puts out their own money. Mm-hmm. And with their own money, obviously with whatever leverage the broker is allowed by compliance, by regulation, to give the trader. Obviously, in Europe, it's 1-30. In the rest of the world, it depends what it is. Whatever it is, there's leverage, the component, and also other things related to how these brokerage firms are very regulated, as you mentioned before. The trader puts their own money, and whatever trading activity they do is at their own, let's call it, expense, and that is where the broker earns their revenue based off of the actual trading activity. So a trader who's going to enter into whatever market, whatever index or, metal, they're going to think, long and hard, or they should, about the trade they're going to take. Versus in a prop firm, the trader, again, there's access to the markets. It's the same same instruments, generally speaking, forex, metals, indices. The difference is in the prop firm, or what they call, the funded programs, is a potential trader the intent is to showcase their ability to trade, or at least learn, and they pay some kind of a subscription fee,
which is very low.
Which is low based on their risk appetite. There are different packages, different fund, prop firms out there with different options. But the overall, the concept is subscribe, prove your worth, and if you're good, you'll get a funded account. It's not your own money, and then from that funded account, whatever winnings you have, if there are, you're entitled to a percentage of those winnings, and the prop firm keeps a percentage of the winnings. And in this way, the trader never risks their own money.
That's true.
And it's a lot more in terms of balance. So there are different programs out there. Some give 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, whatever it is. There are different packages. And how that's different in the back side, the back end of things, is a broker earns money on the trades, as you mentioned. So it makes sense to charge on the volume, because every trade that is placed, the broker's earning money.
Exactly.
And then if they're using a technology like the bridge, the Tools for Brokers bridge, Tools for Brokers charges on that. Whereas in the prop firm, they don't. They've subscribed, they've been given some balance, which is just to evaluate them, test them.
They trade on the demo accounts mostly.
It's a demo account. It's not real money. And then that would obviously result in different trading behavior, because it's not your own money.
Yes.
Right? You're trying to prove your worth. Obviously, the traders who are trying these funded programs need to adhere to certain rules. You cannot, max drawdown. You mentioned stop out. That was for the drawdown, right? If your account reaches a certain level in minus, whether it's in floating profit, the ongoing trades, or balance has reached whatever, you stopped out, you didn't pass the evaluation, try again, whatever it is. Okay, so that was I just wanted to build that. Now let's go into the next, which I think is quite interesting here, because you did mention that you consult brokers and also on the process of getting what's it called, registering a company and getting licensed, right? And the consultancy around the brokerage. And obviously, now the prop firms, there's no regulation at the moment. It's their own money theoretically, but that's going to change.
Yes, exactly. That was my comment, because I'm not sure how long it's going to be this, let's call it easy, because again, to launch a prop trading firm, it's 1, 2, 3, you go, because this is not regular brokerage. You do not really, accept deposits. So things are very straightforward. And I was also wondering when this is going to be regulated, because this is a reason why everyone is mostly involved in prop trading rather than the classical brokerage companies now. So I'm also wondering.
I think this is a good opportunity, and I think with someone with your insight, right, and maybe this is not so much, I guess, very valuable for all participants in the industry, traders as well as brokers, right, or potential businesses who want to become prop firms. Let's maybe, because you can't hide around that, it's going to come one way or another.
Of course.
I think for any trader who's looking to subscribe to a prop firm, or a prop firm that is already operational and very big and already has clients, what would you say are the important points to look at for a platform for potential future regulation? Like, what do you need to do, right? I think there's a lot of common things here with what brokers have to do in terms of regulation versus what a prop firm has to do, right? So, for example, I guess leverage doesn't come into play, right? Doesn't. But I guess KYC, jurisdiction, I think, access to the markets, the actual money, the fund, the funded accounts. Where are those funded accounts? We know brokers. One of the very strict regulation is client funds you're not allowed to touch, right? How does that map across? And I know this is a very in-depth, kind of question and topic, and maybe a whole other hour conversation. But what pops in your mind, in terms of, a broker, the most important things to get regulated, and how that could maybe apply to a prop firm?
Let's say, again, when a few years ago, you could have become like prop trading firm like very, very easily. Nowadays, let's say even getting the MT5 license, the full license, it's troublesome because you need to indicate the specific business activities in order to be onboarded by MetaQuotes, and it should not involve consulting, it should not involve educating. This is basically what the prop trading firm does. They kind of educate the newbie traders to learn how to trade, more or less. So these fields, like these business activities, and anymore, like it's no longer being accepted by the MetaQuote. So, and of course, getting the MT5 license, this is your second important step after getting the needed regulation. So nowadays, of course, it's tricky because you need to find ways, how to deal with that. Of course, everyone knows that after the white label was, stopped being provided on the market, that white label was one of the most not important, but one of the most popular thing how the prop trading firms were launching in the beginning. White label, again, straightforward, 1, 2, 3, okay, we're done. Nowadays, you cannot get the white label. You need to have the full license, and in order to get the full license, you more or less, unfortunately, according to my experience, you need to go through the same steps as the regular brokerage company goes in order to get the MT5 license. And it doesn't really matter because, what we noticed with the MetaQuotes nowadays, it doesn't really matter for them if you're prop trading, if you're a brokerage company. If you comply with the requirements, okay, good to go. And the requirements more or less are the same for both. You have to be regulated. Your business activities have to indicate correctly what exactly you're planning to do. It should not be consulting. You're not a consultant. You're still working with the money. You're still accepting the money from the end trader. So, in a way, it's transparent towards the trader itself as well, because they have to understand that MetaQuotes are not going to onboard any company. Like, you have to go through certain levels of hell in order to be accepted by them. So if there is a new firm that is popping on the market nowadays, it means that it's transparent. It means that they comply with majority of things, with all of the things that needs to be complied with MetaQuote. So unfortunately, I would say that it's not as easy to become prop trading firm nowadays as it was before. Same as with brokerage companies, it's not as easy as before. I remember one of the partners that I work with still on the market, who helps with the company formation. When I started 5 years ago working with him, he was like, yeah, Lola, 3 weeks, St. Vincent, done. Awesome. Nowadays, when I talk to him, he's like, listen, Marshall Islands, maybe Seychelles, maybe. I'm like, okay, how long? He's like, I don't know, 4 up to 6 months. I'm like, months? He's like, yeah, it's getting very, very hard. And it's still, it's not 100% it's going to be 4 or 6 months, because again, there's a lot of companies who are applying with them. There is a waiting line and this and that. So it's getting harder. Honestly, it is getting harder. We do. I cannot really say that our business dropped because of that. No, we still, we're adjusting. We are adjusting towards the current market and environment, etc. But answering your question, it's not like, if you asked me this question, let's say 2 years ago, I'll be able to tell you exactly where's the difference in onboarding between the prop trading and the brokerage companies. Nowadays, I don't think there's a huge difference, unfortunately. So in the end of the day, it's up to the company itself how exactly they want to proceed, because same way as they would like to proceed as a regular brokerage company or a prop trading, they need the same amount of documents and etc. It's afterwards when they get the MT5 license, this is what they want to do specifically themselves. Okay, then everything is changes, the technology wise, the offering wise, and etc. But beforehand, everything is more or less the same.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's a really very interesting. Let's call it dynamic, new kind of offering, and who knows what we're going to see in the future with regard to these new offerings, that you mentioned before. How'd you come up with that? But you've also mentioned this. I think regulation is a very good thing. It's very important. It's protects the end trader,
yes.
And at the end of the day, the end trader, without the end trader, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly. Definitely, I agree with you. Definitely, for sure. I remember when we met with you in South Africa. I remember. I think I asked you a question. Either what is the main purpose of you being here or whatnot, and you told me, actually, I want to know what trader needs. Because without the trader, we wouldn't be here. This expo wouldn't exist. We wouldn't exist. So it's important for me to understand what the end trader wants, what he needs exactly, what would make his life easier. And then when it hit me as well, I never questioned that, because obviously our clients are not traders, our clients are brokers. But these brokers wouldn't exist without the traders. And then when it shifted my perspective as well, and that's when I also started asking questions from the partners. Okay, I understand you provide this and that, but how it will help the trader in the end of the day? How will make things easier for him? Have you questioned yourself that? And some of the time I will hear, oh, we work with brokers. We don't care how further it goes, the line. So I think that's a very good point that you mentioned, that in the end of the day, if you consider the traders' interests, that's when you will be more or less more successful than the people who are not really thinking about that line.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And, they have to be part of the conversation, because, is what we say, and that's why platforms like this, one of the main drivers around this podcast is to pass on this insight. How does this industry work where you've got your money invested in, and we know there've been some bad participants. That's why we keep saying, regulation's a good thing. These new emerging, let's call it offerings, what's the intent? The prop firm concept, for now, it looks good, right? I mean, but there are some who've manipulated it, right? So you've got to be careful. You mentioned hedge fund as well.